Imagine standing on top of a mountain. The sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. In front of you stretches something endless, a snake made of stone, crawling over hills and valleys, disappearing into the mist. This is the Great Wall of China. Tonight, we're going to walk along it, not with our feet, but with our minds. Don't worry, no heavy hiking boots needed. Just close your eyes, relax, and let me guide you.
The wall that touches the sky. The Great Wall isn't just big, it's massive. Like, your Wi-Fi will lose signal halfway across massive. More than 21,000 kilometers long. That's like walking from Dhaka to London and then deciding, let's walk back too. But here's the thing. This isn't just a wall made of stone and bricks. This is a timeline. Every block, every tower, every dusty path has a story to tell. Some are about emperors and warriors. Others are about farmers, merchants, lovers, and even ghosts. Yeah, we'll get to the ghost stories later. For now, let's start at the beginning. Because this isn't just a documentary. It's a journey. Calm, slow, and peaceful.
Why was it built anyway? Before we dive deep into the history, let's ask the obvious question. Why spend hundreds of years building a giant wall through mountains and deserts? The short answer? Protection. Long before China became one big united country, there were small kingdoms. Imagine 7 neighbors living side by side, but everyone keeps stealing each other's chickens. That's pretty much how ancient China was. Different states kept fighting, raiding, and defending their lands. So, kings thought, what if we built walls around our kingdoms? To keep the neighbors out and our chickens safe. And just like that, the first walls were born. Not one long Great Wall, but many small walls scattered across the land. A walk back in time. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture China about 2,700 years ago. No skyscrapers, no highways, no TikTok. Just endless green fields, misty mountains, and tiny villages. Farmers planting rice, children playing near rivers. The smell of wood fires drifting through the air. But there's tension too. Border raids, invaders, whispers of war traveling faster than the wind. This is where the idea of the wall begins. Simple, small, and made from packed earth. Nothing fancy. No bricks, no watchtowers. Just mud, wood, and determination. Little did they know, they were laying the first stones of something the world would one day call one of the 7 wonders. The first footsteps. Fast forward a couple hundred years, the spring and autumn period around 770 BCE comes alive. That's when kingdoms like Qi, Chu, and Yan began making their own walls. Some were only a few meters tall. Some stretched across entire valleys, but they all served the same purpose: keep the enemies out. Now here's something cool. When archaeologists studied these ancient walls, they discovered that builders often mix sticky rice into the mud to make it stronger. Yup, sticky rice. So technically, the Great Wall has a little bit of fried rice history baked in. The wall that brought people together. But these early walls weren't connected yet. Each kingdom had its own. That changed when one ambitious man arrived, Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China. Now, Qin Shi Huang was, let's just say, not your average emperor. He wanted everything bigger. Bigger palaces, bigger armies, bigger statues, and yes, a bigger wall. Why build little walls when we can build one giant wall, he thought.
And so, in 221 BCE, he ordered thousands of workers, soldiers, and prisoners to start building. Not small walls anymore, but one massive chain of defenses.
Life on the wall. Let's pause for a moment and imagine something. It's night. You're a young soldier standing on a watchtower of the early wall. The air is cold. You can hear wolves howling in the distance. Your torch flickers against the stone. Behind you, your campfire burns. You smell rice cooking in a clay pot. Other soldiers are quietly humming old folk songs to stay awake. In front of you, beyond the wall, you see endless darkness, unknown lands, unknown dangers. Peaceful, but not without fear. This is where thousands of men spent their lives, building, guarding, waiting.
More than just bricks and stones. Here's the thing most people forget. The Great Wall isn't just stone and history. It's human stories. Some built it with pride. Others built it with tears. Many never came back home. Every step along the wall carries the weight of those who walked before us. Their footprints are gone, but their stories are still here, whispering in the wind, trapped between bricks and flowing in the silence of the mountains.
The wall today. Fast forward to now. Thousands of years later, the wall still stands. Some parts are beautifully restored, where tourists take selfies and eat ice cream. Other parts are wild and broken, swallowed by grass and trees. But no matter where you go, there's something magical about standing on it. You feel small, tiny even, because suddenly you're not just you anymore. You're connected to millions of footsteps. Emperors, merchants, soldiers, farmers, all sharing the same path across centuries, where our journey begins. And tonight, that's exactly what we'll do. We'll walk across time, from the earliest mud walls to the majestic stone towers, from forgotten legends to heroic battles, from the heart of ancient China to the stars shining above the wall today. So take a deep breath. Close your eyes if you want to. Let your body relax and let history slowly unfold. Because this is just the beginning. And tomorrow, we go deeper into the past. Before the Great Wall became the Great Wall, it was just, well, a bunch of little walls. Tiny, scattered, and honestly, kind of cute compared to the giant beast we know today. But this is where the story begins. Way back, around 7th century BCE, a time with no smartphones, no highways, no Instagram stories, only kingdoms, rice fields, and a whole lot of trouble. China wasn't China yet. Close your eyes and picture ancient China. Not the skyscrapers and neon lights we know today, but endless green fields, misty rivers, and small wooden villages. Back then, China wasn't one big happy family. It was lots of small states, each with their own kings, soldiers, and of course, problems. Historians call this the Spring and Autumn period. But honestly, it wasn't that springy or autumny. It was more like the fight with your neighbors period. Chicken wars and bamboo spears. Imagine living in one of these small kingdoms. You're a farmer, you work all day planting rice, and just when you're about to sit down to eat, you hear someone yelling, "The neighbors are stealing our cows again. That was life back then. Raids, small battles, and border fights were common. So, kings came up with an idea. If we can't get along, let's build walls and keep everyone out. Simple, right? But here's the fun part. These early walls weren't majestic at all. No stone, no fancy bricks, no watchtowers. They were mostly packed earth and wood. Basically, giant mud walls. But hey, even a mud wall is better than no wall when your neighbor has sharp bamboo spears. The first walls appear. Some of the earliest walls popped up in states like Chu, Qi, and Yan. They weren't connected yet, just standing proudly on their own like introverts at a party. These walls were short, simple, and built quickly. No grand architecture, no tourist attractions. Just one goal: keep outsiders out. If you visited back then, you'd probably see farmers carrying baskets of dirt, children running barefoot, and old men yelling, "Pack it tighter, make it stronger." It wasn't glamorous, but it was the start of something big. A clever little trick. Now here's a fun fact. Some builders mix sticky rice into the mud. Yeah, the same sticky rice you eat with chopsticks. Why? Because sticky rice made the wall stronger and resistant to rain. In a way, you could say these early walls were held together by lunch. And believe it or not, scientists today tested samples from ancient walls. And yes, the rice trick actually worked. So next time you eat fried rice, just remember, you're technically eating history. A life near the walls. Let's slow down for a moment. Imagine you're living in a small village near one of these walls. The sun is setting, orange light spills across the fields, you hear birds returning to their nests. The wall casts a long shadow over the land. Soldiers stand on top holding bamboo spears, their armor shining faintly. Down below, farmers are returning home after a long day, laughing, gossiping, and sharing stories about border raids. Life wasn't peaceful, but there was a strange comfort in seeing that wall standing tall. It felt safe, protected, like someone was always watching over you, even if it was just a pile of mud. The whisper of legends. And of course, even back then, walls inspired stories. People believed that ancient spirits guarded the boundaries. Some said if you touched the wall at midnight, you could hear whispers from the ancestors. Others claimed the walls glowed under moonlight, protecting the land with unseen magic. Now, were these just bedtime stories? Probably. But they added a little spark of mystery to life in those times. The bigger picture. Here's something important to understand. These small walls weren't just about defense. They shaped trade routes. They influenced villages and markets. They controlled where people could live and travel. Whenever a wall went up, entire communities shifted around it. Farmers moved closer for safety, merchants set up stalls near gates, and soldiers built camps nearby. So, in a way, these early walls started creating connections, even before China became one united empire. But problems kept growing. Here's the thing though, no matter how many little walls they built, trouble never really stopped. New raiders arrived, old enemies returned. Sometimes even the kings themselves broke their own peace treaties. And slowly, everyone realized something. If we really want to stay safe, maybe we need one giant wall. That thought didn't turn into reality immediately, but the dream was born here, in these small states, on these muddy hills, with these simple walls. A step toward unity.
Remember this: the Great Wall we know today wasn't built in a day, or a year, or even a century. It started here, in these quiet valleys, where kings, farmers, and soldiers laid the first stones. Nobody back then knew that one day, millions of people would walk these paths as tourists, taking selfies and eating ice cream. They were just trying to survive, trying to keep their families safe. And yet, their small, scattered walls would one day connect, stretching across mountains, deserts, and forests, becoming something the world would never forget. Setting the stage. So, as you breathe slowly now, think of these early builders. Simple people. Simple tools. Simple dreams. No bricks. No grand watchtowers. No famous name like the Great Wall yet. Just small groups of humans working together, hauling dirt under the hot sun, hoping their walls would stand strong against whatever dangers came next. Little did they know, they were creating the first heartbeat of one of the greatest wonders on Earth. Where we go next. This is where the dream began. But in our next chapter, things get serious because a powerful emperor is about to arrive. A man with a vision bigger than mountains. A man who looked at all these tiny walls and said, "Nope, not enough." Get ready, because Qin Shi Huang is about to change everything. Last time, we saw how little mud walls started popping up everywhere, but honestly, China still looked like a patchwork quilt. Dozens of small kingdoms, everyone fighting, everyone suspicious, everyone stealing. Well, probably everyone's chickens. But then came one man who decided enough is enough. We're gonna stop this chaos. Also, let's build something huge. That man was Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of a unified China. And trust me, this guy was not messing around. Meet Qin Shi Huang. Picture this. It's 221 BCE. The Warring States period is finally ending after centuries of fighting. 7 major kingdoms stand, but Qin Shi Huang wants just one. One ruler, one empire, one big shiny throne. And somehow, he pulls it off. Through brilliant strategy, brutal battles, and maybe just a tiny bit of luck, he unites the kingdoms under the Qin dynasty. Now, most people would take a vacation after that. You know, relax a little. Not Qin Shi Huang. This guy wakes up one morning, looks at a map, and says, "Cool, now let's build a wall. A big one." Why one big wall? Remember the small walls we talked about? Each kingdom had its own, but Qin saw a problem. Too many walls, too many gaps, too many invaders still sneaking through. Especially from the Xiongnu nomads in the north, skilled horsemen who were basically the ancient version of, "Surprise, we're invading." So Qin thought, what if we connect the walls? Make one giant wall, long enough to protect the whole empire. And just like that, history's most ambitious construction project began. The workforce of millions. Now, when I say construction project, I'm not talking about a weekend DIY job. This was massive. Qin commanded hundreds of thousands of workers, soldiers, farmers, slaves, and yes, prisoners too. Some historians estimate nearly 1 million people worked on the wall. Imagine the noise, the dust, the sweat, the sound of hammers hitting stone, the shouts of men hauling heavy baskets. Day after day, month after month, year after year. And here's the wild part. There were no modern machines, no cranes, no trucks, not even simple wheelbarrows in many areas. Everything was done by hand. And honestly, that makes the wall even more unbelievable. The wall rises. Now close your eyes for a second. Picture it. You're standing on a hill in northern China, around 215 BCE. The air smells of wet earth and smoke. All around you, thousands of workers move like ants, carrying stones, mud, and timber. Some are digging trenches. Others are stacking rammed earth into huge blocks. Far away, soldiers on horseback watch the horizon for enemies. You wipe the sweat from your forehead, take a deep breath, and hear someone shouting, "Pack it tighter! The Emperor wants this wall to last forever!" The sun dips low, casting long shadows over the hills. Little by little, the wall begins to rise, stretching across the horizon like a sleeping dragon. Zaiqian, life wasn't easy. Working on the wall was, well, let's just say it wasn't a fun summer internship. Food was basic, mostly rice, millet, and whatever wild greens people could find. The weather was harsh, burning hot summers, freezing cold winters. And yes, danger was everywhere. Disease, accidents, landslides, exhaustion. Many workers never returned home. People whispered that the wall ate lives. Some even called it the longest cemetery on Earth. It sounds dark, but at night, when the torches burned and the air cooled, soldiers would gather around campfires, singing songs, sharing stories, and dreaming of the families waiting for them. Those little human moments, they kept the wall alive. Beacon towers and secret codes. Qin Shi Huang wasn't just building a wall, he was building a system. All along the wall, he ordered the construction of watchtowers and beacon towers. These were like the ancient version of notifications. If invaders were spotted, soldiers lit a fire on the first tower. That fire was seen by the next tower, so they lit theirs too, and so on. In just a few hours, news of an invasion could reach hundreds of kilometers away. Think of it as ancient Wi-Fi, just a little smokier. Qin's vision. For Qin Shi Huang, the wall wasn't just about defense. It was about control. The wall helped manage trade routes, collected taxes, and marked the edges of the empire. In his mind, this wasn't just a barrier, it was a statement. This is China. Inside these walls, we are one. It's kind of poetic, isn't it? A man trying to turn chaos into order, using stone, sweat, and dreams. The Emperor's obsession. Now, here's where things get interesting. Qin Shi Huang was a little obsessed, not just with walls, but with immortality. While his workers built the wall, he sent explorers across oceans searching for magical elixirs. He even drank mercury, thinking it would make him live forever. Spoiler alert, it didn't. But his obsession left us something eternal. This giant wall that still winds across mountains and deserts today. What the wall meant to people. For the soldiers who guarded it, the wall was safety. For the workers who built it, the wall was sacrifice. For the emperor, the wall was power. And for us today, it's a reminder that humans can dream big and sometimes against all odds, they make it real. The end of an era. Qin Shi Huang died in 210 BCE, but his vision lived on. Future dynasties would repair, rebuild, and expand the wall for centuries. The foundation Qin laid was only the first chapter of a story that would last more than 2,000 years. His dream didn't just unify walls, it unified a nation. Where we go next? And this is where things start getting exciting. Because after Qin comes the Han Dynasty. A time of trade, a time of connection. A time when the wall became more than just defense. It became the gateway to the Silk Road. In our next chapter, we'll step into bustling markets, hear camel bells in the distance, and follow merchants carrying silk, spices, and secrets across the desert. Take a deep breath, relax. The journey's just getting started.
Last time, we followed Qin Shi Huang and his dream of building one giant wall. But after his death, things got messy. The Qin dynasty collapsed faster than a house of cards in a storm. For a while, chaos returned, but then came a new power, the Han dynasty. And the Han? Well, they looked at Qin's wall and said, impressive start, but we can do better. Spoiler, they did.
Meet the Han Dynasty. The Han Dynasty began in 206 BCE and lasted for more than 400 years. It's one of the most important dynasties in Chinese history, the period when China started becoming, well, China. Under the Han, science, art, and trade all bloomed. Poetry was written, silk was woven, and, of course, the Great Wall got a major upgrade. But this time, it wasn't just about defense. It was about expansion. It was about connecting China to the rest of the world. The Xiongnu problem. Remember the Xiongnu nomads from the north? The fast horsemen who made emperors lose sleep? Yeah, they were still around. And under the Han Dynasty, they were stronger than ever. They raided villages, burned farms, and basically became the ancient version of, surprise, we're invading again. The Han emperors had two choices: fight them endlessly, or protect their lands better than ever before. So, Emperor Wu of Han came up with a plan. Rebuild Qin's wall. Expand it, fortify it, and make it part of a bigger strategy. The wall gets a makeover. This wasn't just a small repair job. The Han Dynasty took Qin's rough, muddy walls and started turning them into fortresses. Taller walls made with stronger bricks. Watchtowers spaced carefully for better visibility. Huge gates that connected roads and markets. Guard stations with supplies, weapons, and food. And here's the cool part. They built new walls deep into the Gobi Desert, pushing the empire's reach further than ever before. At its peak, the Han Wall stretched more than 5,000 kilometers. That's like walking from Dhaka to Dubai and then saying, let's keep going a bit more. Life on the Han Wall. Now, let's pause and imagine life back then. You're a soldier, stationed at a Han watchtower. The year is 130 BCE. It's cold. You can hear the desert wind howling through the night. Above you, millions of stars scatter across a black sky. You huddle around a small fire with your fellow guards. Someone passes a bowl of hot soup. You sip slowly, watching shadows flicker against the wall. Then, suddenly, a horn blows in the distance. You look toward the horizon and see a faint light far away. a beacon tower is lit. That means trouble. Within minutes, you and dozens of soldiers grab your weapons, stand at the wall, and wait in silence. For hours, nothing happens. The cold bites through your armor, but the wall stands strong, and so do you. This was life for thousands of men. Long nights, quiet days, and endless waiting on the edge of history. The Silk Road is born. Now, here's where things get really interesting. The Han Wall wasn't just about fighting invaders. It was also about opening doors. During the Han Dynasty, China began trading with faraway lands, places as distant as India, Persia, and even Rome. This trade route became known as the Silk Road. Close your eyes and imagine this. Long caravans of camels walking slowly across the desert. Bells jingling softly with each step. Merchants carrying rolls of silk, jars of spices, and shiny glass beads. Foreign travelers arriving with strange languages and curious stories. The wall played a huge role here. It protected traders, kept markets safe, and became the gateway to the outside world. Without the wall, the Silk Road might never have existed. A meeting of cultures. Because of this trade, border towns near the wall became lively, colorful melting pots. Imagine walking into a Han marketplace. You hear the music of flutes and drums. You smell incense, tea, and roasted lamb. You see merchants from India selling jewels, Persians trading carpets, and Chinese artisans showing off fine silk. People haggled, laughed, and swapped stories. Children chased each other between stalls. Soldiers leaned on their spears, watching the chaos with amused smiles. The wall, once just a barrier, was now a bridge between worlds. Spies, secrets, and strategy. Of course, with trade came trouble. The Han emperors were always worried about spies, especially from the Xiongnu. So they set up checkpoints along the wall, carefully inspecting goods, letters, and travelers. Sometimes information flowed faster than silk. Secret messages hidden inside scrolls. Disguised riders galloping under moonlight. Coded signals sent between watchtowers. The wall wasn't just stone anymore. It was intelligence, communication, and strategy all in one. The people behind the wall. But let's not forget the human side of this. Building and maintaining the wall was still back-breaking work. Thousands of farmers were drafted during off-seasons, hauling stones, cutting timber, and shaping bricks under the hot sun. For many, the wall was more than just a job. It was survival. It was honor. It was proof that their lives were part of something bigger. Families grew up near the wall. Children played in its shadows. Old storytellers sat by campfires, whispering tales of dragons and heroes to anyone willing to listen. The wall becomes symbolic. By the time the Han Dynasty reached its peak, the wall wasn't just a defense system anymore. It represented strength, the power to stand firm, unity, many regions working as one, and connection, linking China to distant worlds. It had started as protection, but under the Han, it became a symbol of ambition and possibility. The passing of time. But nothing lasts forever. By the end of the Han Dynasty, internal problems started piling up. Corruption, rebellions, weak rulers. Slowly, the wall fell into disrepair again. Some watchtowers were abandoned. Desert sands buried old gates. Caravans moved along new trade paths. The wall had grown, but its glory was fading. Where we go next? And that sets the stage for our next chapter. Because after the Han Dynasty comes a time of peaceful trade and cultural blending under the Tang and Song dynasties. No big wars, no constant invasions, just music, poetry, markets, and quiet evenings by the wall. Take a deep breath, because our journey is about to get softer, warmer, and more poetic. Where we go next. But the story isn't over yet. In our next chapter, we leave behind battles and step into the quiet lives of those who lived and breathed the wall every day. The guardians, the workers, and the ordinary families who called it home. Take a deep breath, because we're about to meet the guardians of the wall. The beginning of the end. By the late Ming period, problems began piling up. Corruption spread among officials. The empire's economy weakened. And in 1644, a new force arrived, the Manchu armies. They breached the wall at Shanhaiguan Pass, and the Ming dynasty collapsed, marking the start of the Qing dynasty. The wall, once a symbol of strength, now stood quiet again, watching history shift beneath its legends of the Ming Wall. Like every era, the Ming Wall gained its share of legends. One story tells of ghost soldiers still marching along moonlit ridges, guarding the empire even after death. Another speaks of hidden tunnels leading to secret treasure rooms sealed for centuries. And of course, there are tales of lovers separated by the wall, promising to meet again in another lifetime. These whispers gave the wall a soul, making it more than stone and brick. Famous passes and fortresses. During the Ming era, several sections became legendary. Jiayuguan Pass, the first pass under heaven guarding the edge of the Gobi Desert. Shanhaiguan Pass, where the wall meets the sea, a stunning sight even today. Badaling, near Beijing, later becoming one of the most visited sections in modern times. Each gate wasn't just military. It was a symbol of Ming power, a reminder to the world that China was untouchable. The Wall and the Silk Road. Even during the Ming, the wall played a key role in trade. Merchants from Central Asia, the Mongol threat. The Ming Wall wasn't built for decoration. It was built for survival. The Mongols were fierce, fast horsemen, expert archers, and masters of surprise attacks. The wall became the front line. When invaders approached, beacons lit up one by one, sending fiery warnings across the mountains. Within hours, entire garrisons mobilized, rushing to defend vulnerable gates and passes. Some of the fiercest battles of the era took place right along these walls. The wall as a city. Now, here's something people don't always realize. The Ming Wall wasn't just a defense barrier. It was also alive. Along the wall, huge fortresses and garrisons sprang up. Markets were built near the gates. Villages grew beside the strongholds. Traders building the beast. Now, imagine being a worker in the Ming era. You're standing on a windy mountain ridge, carrying a stone twice your size. The air is thin, your hands are rough, and the foreman is yelling, "Careful! Emperor wants this wall to last forever!" The work was brutal. Temperatures swung from freezing winters to scorching summers. And yet somehow, the workers kept going. Bit by bit, stone by stone, the wall stretched over 8,800 kilometers during the Ming. That's like walking from Dhaka to Tokyo and then deciding, let's keep going to Alaska. Life on the Ming Wall. Let's slow down for a second. Imagine you're a Ming soldier on duty at the wall. It's night. The stars are bright, the mountains silent, and you're standing in a watchtower holding a lantern. Down below, you hear the faint rustle of trees in the wind. Up ahead, a fellow guard is softly humming an old folk song. Enter the Ming Dynasty. The Ming Dynasty lasted from 1368 to 1644, and honestly, they gave the Great Wall its iconic look. Everything we picture today, the stone bricks, the tall watchtowers, the massive gates, and the endless winding dragon across mountains, most of it came from the Ming era. But this wasn't just about defense, it was about pride. The Ming wanted the wall to scream, "This is China, strong, united, unbreakable." A total makeover. Forget mud walls, forget fragile fences. The Ming went full. In our last chapter, we drifted through the peaceful times of the Tang and Song dynasties. Music, poetry, trade, life was calm. But you know how history works, right? Peace doesn't last forever. Because one day, the silence of the wall was broken by the sound of hooves. The north was stirring again, and this time, the threat had a name: the Mongols. The calm before the storm. By the late 13th century, the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan rose like a desert storm. Lightning-fast warriors. In our last chapter, we drifted through the peaceful times of the Tang and Song dynasties. Music, poetry, trade, life was calm. But you know how history works, right? Peace doesn't last forever. Because one day, the silence of the wall was broken by the sound of hooves. The north was stirring again, and this time, the threat had a name: the Mongols. The calm before the storm. By the late 13th century, the Mongol Empire under Genghis Khan rose like a desert storm. Lightning-fast warriors, brilliant strategies, and, let's be honest, a scary amount of energy for people who drank fermented horse milk. The Mongols invaded China and eventually created the Yuan dynasty. But when the Yuan fell, the Ming dynasty rose in 1368 CE. And trust me, the Ming emperors had one big goal: keep the Mongols out. And that's when they looked at the old Great Wall and said, yeah, we need a full makeover. Enter the Ming dynasty. The Ming dynasty lasted from 1368 to 1644, and honestly, they gave the Great Wall its iconic look. Everything we picture today, the stone bricks, the tall watchtowers, the massive gates, and the endless winding dragon across mountains, most of it came from the Ming era. But this wasn't just about defense, it was about pride. The Ming wanted the wall to scream, "This is China, strong, united, unbreakable." A total makeover. Forget mud walls, forget fragile fences. The Ming went full architect mode. Stone and brick walls, stronger, taller, and weather-resistant. Watchtowers, placed every few hundred meters for visibility. Beacon towers, instant communication during attacks. Fortresses and gates, some as large as small towns. They even built secret tunnels to move troops quickly. Basically, this was no longer just a wall. It was an engineered masterpiece. Building the beast. Now, imagine being a worker in the Ming era. You're standing on a windy mountain ridge, carrying a stone twice your size. The air is thin, your hands are rough, and the foreman is yelling, Careful! Emperor wants this wall to last forever! The work was brutal. Temperatures swung from freezing winters to scorching summers. And yet somehow, the workers kept going. Bit by bit, stone by stone, the wall stretched over 8,800 kilometers during the Ming. That's like walking from Dhaka to Tokyo and then deciding, let's keep going to Alaska. Life on the Ming Wall. Let's slow down for a second. Imagine you're a Ming soldier on duty at the wall. It's night. The stars are bright, the mountains silent, and you're standing in a watchtower holding a lantern. Down below, you hear the faint rustle of trees in the wind. Up ahead, a fellow guard is softly humming an old folk song. Your job? Simple. Watch, wait, and protect. Some nights are peaceful like this. Others, not so much. Because if the beacon tower lights up, you know what it means. Trouble is coming. The Mongol threat. The Ming Wall wasn't built for decoration. It was built for survival. The Mongols were fierce, fast horsemen, expert archers, and masters of surprise attacks. The wall became the front line. When invaders approached, beacons lit up one by one, sending fiery warnings across the mountains. Within hours, entire garrisons mobilized, rushing to defend vulnerable gates and passes. Some of the fiercest battles of the era took place right along these walls. The wall as a city. Now, here's something people don't always realize. The Ming Wall wasn't just a defense barrier. It was also alive. Along the wall, huge fortresses and garrisons sprang up. Markets were built near the gates. Villages grew beside the strongholds. Traders, farmers, blacksmiths, and soldiers all lived side by side. At night, the wall wasn't silent. You'd hear clinking cups, laughter around campfires, and soft music drifting from nearby houses. For many, the wall wasn't just stone. It was home. Famous passes and fortresses. During the Ming era, several sections became legendary. Jiayuguan Pass, the first pass under heaven guarding the edge of the Gobi Desert. Shanhaiguan Pass, where the wall meets the sea, a stunning sight even today. Badaling, near Beijing, later becoming one of the most visited sections in modern times. Each gate wasn't just military. It was a symbol of Ming power, a reminder to the world that China was untouchable. The Wall and the Silk Road. Even during the Ming, the wall played a key role in trade. Merchants from Central Asia brought exotic goods, spices, jade, carpets, and glassware. In return, Chinese silk, tea, and porcelain traveled west to India, Persia, and beyond. Under the glow of lanterns, markets bustled with energy. Languages mixed, coins clinked, and stories from faraway lands spread like wildfire under starlit skies. The wall wasn't just dividing civilizations anymore. It was connecting them. Legends of the Ming Wall. Like every era, the Ming Wall gained its share of legends. One story tells of ghost soldiers still marching along moonlit ridges, guarding the empire even after death. Another speaks of hidden tunnels leading to secret treasure rooms sealed for centuries. And of course, there are tales of lovers separated by the wall, promising to meet again in another lifetime. These whispers gave the wall a soul, making it more than stone and brick. The beginning of the end. By the late Ming period, problems began piling up. Corruption spread among officials. The empire's economy weakened. And in 1644, a new force arrived, the Manchu armies. They breached the wall at Shanhaiguan Pass, and the Ming dynasty collapsed, marking the start of the Qing dynasty. The wall, once a symbol of strength, now stood quiet again, watching history shift beneath its stones.
Where we go next? But the story isn't over yet. In our next chapter, we leave behind battles and step into the quiet lives of those who lived and breathed the wall every day. The guardians, the workers, and the ordinary families who called it home. Take a deep breath because we're about to meet the guardians of the wall.
The Great Wall isn't just a story of emperors and battles. It's also the story of the people who lived on it, slept on it, laughed on it, and sometimes cried on it. For centuries, thousands of soldiers, workers, and families called the wall their home. They weren't kings or poets. They were ordinary people. But without them, the wall would have been just a pile of bricks. Tonight, we step into their shoes. We meet the guardians of the wall. A day in the life of a guardian. Close your eyes for a moment. It's dawn. The cold mountain air bites your face. The sun is rising slowly, painting the wall in shades of gold. You're a young soldier, barely 20, and today is just another day on duty. You stretch your arms, grab your spear, and climb to the top of the watchtower. From up here, you see rolling hills, deep valleys, and endless stones stretching like a dragon across the horizon. It looks peaceful. It feels peaceful. But your job? Make sure it stays peaceful. Morning routines on the wall. Life on the wall wasn't glamorous. There was no fancy breakfast buffet, no Instagram-worthy coffee. Most mornings began with a bowl of millet porridge. If you were lucky, maybe a few pickled vegetables. If you were really lucky, a piece of dried meat. Then came training, archery practice, sword drills, and learning how to signal with flags and fire. After that, you patrolled the wall, checking for cracks, loose stones, or suspicious footprints in the dirt below. It wasn't easy work, but it gave life a rhythm, one that soldiers grew used to. Guarding the watchtowers. The watchtower was the heart of every soldier's life. These towers weren't just shelters, they were the eyes of the wall. Inside, you'd find firewood for beacon signals, racks of arrows and crossbows, water jars and dried rations, mats where soldiers slept during rotations. At night, 2 or 3 guards stayed awake, scanning the darkness for any movement. Sometimes they heard wolves howling far below. Other times, just the soft whisper of wind brushing past stone. It could feel lonely, but it also felt sacred, like being a small part of something bigger than yourself. Signals of fire and smoke. Communication was key for the Guardians. The Great Wall had a clever warning system, beacon towers. In daytime, they used smoke signals. At night, fire signals. One tower lights up, the next one sees it and lights up too. And within hours, a message could travel hundreds of kilometers. Imagine it, you're sipping tea in your tower, thinking about lunch, and suddenly, whoosh, a beacon lights up on the next hill. Your heart races. You grab your torch, light your own beacon, and watch the chain of fire spread into the distance. It was the ancient version of breaking news. No Wi-Fi needed. Fire. Life beyond the battles. Now, here's the thing most people don't realize. Being a guardian wasn't just about fighting. Most days, there was no battle at all. So how did they spend their time?
cooking simple meals over small fires, sharpening weapons that might never be used, playing dice games and singing folk songs, writing letters to families far away, sharing stories about legendary warriors and ghostly watchtowers. At night, some soldiers sat under the stars, dreaming of home. Others just fell asleep mid-conversation, exhausted from training. It was a life of waiting, a life of quiet strength.
Families on the wall. Not everyone on the wall carried a spear. In many sections, soldiers brought their families to live nearby. Small villages grew around key fortresses. Wives cooked meals, children ran along the gates, and elders told stories by the fire. These villages became little communities where life mixed with duty. Picture this, a busy marketplace outside a wall gate. Merchants selling steamed buns and rice wine, kids chasing each other around wooden stalls, soldiers laughing as they buy sweets for their families. The wall wasn't just a defense system. For many, it was home. The loneliness of the wall. But it wasn't always joyful. For every village full of laughter, there were remote stretches of wall where soldiers lived in silence. Imagine standing on a windy cliff in the middle of winter, the snow piling up around your boots, your breath turning to mist. No villages, no marketplaces, just you, a handful of guards, and miles of empty stone. Some soldiers didn't see their families for years. They wrote letters that never arrived. They sang songs into the night, hoping the wind would carry their voices home. Legends among the Guardians. Life on the wall created its own folklore. Soldiers told stories of ghost armies marching under moonlight, protecting the wall even after death. Dragons carved into mountains, said to guard secret treasures. Hidden tunnels leading to secret chambers where ancient weapons were stored. Whether true or not, these tales gave guardians something to hold on to, a bit of mystery to break the endless silence. Friendship and brotherhood. If there was one thing stronger than the wall itself, it was the bond between soldiers. They trained together, ate together, fought side by side when danger came. They called each other brothers, and in many ways, they became family. When one soldier fell sick, others cared for him. When someone's letter from home finally arrived, everyone gathered to listen to it being read. And when danger came, they stood shoulder to shoulder, knowing their lives depended on each other. A quiet heroism. The guardians of the wall weren't famous generals. They weren't emperors or kings. They were ordinary people who carried an extraordinary responsibility. Most of them never saw real battles. Most of their names were never recorded. But without their watchful eyes, the wall would have failed. Every stone they guarded, every beacon they lit, every cold night they endured was a silent act of courage. The human side of history. When we talk about the Great Wall, we think about emperors, dynasties, and wars. But really, it's the people who made it great. The hands that built it, the feet that marched on it, the eyes that scanned the horizon night after night. The wall isn't just stone and brick, it's sweat, tears, and hope, frozen into history. Where we go next. In our next chapter, the wall faces one of its biggest challenges yet,
the endless clashes with the Mongols, and the strategies that shaped its very design. The story gets louder, fiercer, but don't worry, we'll still keep it calm enough for bedtime. Take a deep breath and remember the quiet strength of the guardians who kept the wall alive. In our last chapter, we met the brave guardians who watched over the wall. Their lives were full of routine, long nights, quiet days, and sometimes a little loneliness. But one name could break that silence in a second: the Mongols. Whenever someone whispered it, every soldier sat up straighter, because the Mongols weren't just any enemy. They were fast, fearless, and, honestly, a little terrifying. The Riders of the North. Close your eyes for a moment. Picture endless grasslands stretching to the horizon. The wind whistles through tall, wild grass. Suddenly, you hear it, the rhythmic pounding of thousands of hooves. That's the Mongols. Born on horseback, these warriors could ride for days without rest. They used short, powerful bows that could fire arrows with deadly accuracy, even while galloping at full speed. And their strategy? Simple: speed and surprise. Before you even spotted them, they were already at your gates. No wonder emperors built walls. The Great Wall versus the Great Horseman. By the time of the Ming Dynasty, the Mongols had already shaken China many times. Their raids were quick, clever, and perfectly timed. And that's when the wall became more than just stone. It became a battlefield of strategy. The Ming didn't just build the wall taller and stronger, they made it smarter. Beacon towers to warn of incoming attacks, watchtowers for spotting enemies miles away, hidden tunnels to move troops secretly, fortresses and gates designed to trap invaders. Every brick was placed with one thought in mind: how do we stop the Riders of the North? A night on the watchtower. Let's step into a soldier's boots for a moment. It's midnight. You're standing on a high watchtower. The air is freezing, your breath turning into little clouds. The world is quiet, too quiet. Suddenly, you see dust rising on the horizon. You squint, and your stomach drops. Dozens of shadows appear, riders moving fast. You run to the beacon fire, light the torch, and within seconds, flames roar into the night sky. One tower lights up, then the next, and the next. Within an hour, hundreds of soldiers along the wall are awake, ready, and waiting. This was the reality for generations of guardians. Nights spent listening for hooves in the dark. Mongol tactics versus wall strategy. The Mongols didn't like playing by the rules. Sometimes they attacked directly, firing waves of arrows. Other times, they pretended to retreat, tricking soldiers into leaving their posts only to circle back and strike again. It was like a dangerous game of chess played across deserts and mountains. But the wall gave China an advantage: time. Those beacon fires bought precious hours for reinforcements to arrive. Sometimes that made the difference between holding the line and losing entire towns. Jiaoguan, the Western Gate. One of the most important strongholds during this time was Jiaoguan Pass. Imagine a massive fortress at the edge of the Gobi Desert. Thick stone walls, towering gates, merchants, soldiers, and travelers all passing through its arches. The Mongols tried many times to capture Jiaoguan, but its defenses were legendary.
Some say the architects calculated exactly how many bricks were needed down to the very last one. When the construction ended, one extra brick was left. The builders placed it on top of the main gate and said, "This one brick holds up the wall." Legend says it's still there. Life between raids. It's easy to imagine constant chaos, but the truth is, most days on the wall were quiet. When there weren't battles, soldiers had simple routines: repairing damaged sections of the wall, feeding horses and training archers, cooking porridge and sharing stories, trading with merchants passing through gates. Sometimes, soldiers even played games with kids from nearby villages. A little laughter helped balance the endless tension. When the wall failed. But no wall is perfect. Despite all the defenses, sometimes the Mongols still broke through. One of the most famous breaches happened at Shanhai-Guen Pass, where the wall meets the sea. During a major conflict, a Ming general opened the gates to the Manchu army, allowing them inside. The Ming dynasty fell in 1644 and the Qing dynasty began. The wall had stood tall, but even stone can't stop betrayal.
The Mongols under the Qing. Under the Qing dynasty, relations with the Mongols changed. Instead of constant raids, there were treaties, alliances, and intermarriages. The wall slowly shifted from a frontline battlefield to a boundary marker. But the memories of battles and nights of waiting for attacks never faded from the soldiers' hearts. Legends born from war. Stories from this era still echo along the wall today. Some tell of ghost riders, seen galloping under the moon, bows in hand, their faces hidden behind mist. Others speak of lost Mongol gold, buried beneath ruined watchtowers, waiting for someone brave enough to find it. And then there are songs, passed down from soldier to soldier, telling tales of friends who never returned, and victories hard won beneath cold skies. Respect between enemies. Despite the violence, there was a strange kind of respect between Mongol warriors and wall defenders. Both sides were fierce, both fought for their homes, and both relied on courage more than numbers. In some border towns, when battles paused, traders from both sides met quietly, exchanging goods, stories, and sometimes even jokes. War built walls, but humanity found small ways to cross them. The wall's role in history. The struggle between the Mongols and the wall shaped centuries of Chinese history. It forced emperors to innovate. It turned scattered fortresses into one connected defense system. It pushed trade forward, brought cultures together, and gave the wall its legendary status as more than stone, a living shield. Without the Mongols, the wall might never have become the masterpiece we see today. Where we go next. But the wall isn't just about battles and enemies. It's also about connection. In our next chapter, we leave behind the clash of armies and step into the busy markets, colorful caravans, and endless stories of the Silk Road. The wall becomes something new, not a barrier, but a bridge between worlds. Take a deep breath. The drums fade, the hooves grow quiet, and the markets are calling. In our last chapter, we saw how the Great Wall stood strong against the Mongols and endless battles. But tonight, we leave behind the sound of war drums and step into something much calmer, warmer, and honestly, a little more magical. Because the Great Wall wasn't just built for soldiers, it was also built for travelers, traders, and dreamers. And where there are travelers, there are stories. Welcome to the Silk Road, the road that connected the world. Close your eyes and imagine this. It's a quiet desert morning. Golden sunlight spills across endless sand dunes. A long line of camels moves slowly, their bells jingling softly. Traders in colorful robes walk beside them, their baskets filled with silk, spices, jade, and secrets. This was the Silk Road, a massive network of trade routes stretching from China all the way to Rome. And at the heart of it, protecting the eastern gates, stood the Great Wall. Why the wall mattered? For centuries, the wall wasn't just about defense anymore. It became a gateway. The gates of the wall opened to merchants carrying silk and porcelain, travelers seeking knowledge and adventure, Buddhist monks spreading teachings, musicians sharing songs from distant lands. Every caravan that passed through brought something new, a scent, a story, a melody, a rumor. The wall became a filter between worlds. It didn't just keep invaders out, it welcomed ideas in.
The market at Jiayuguan Pass. Now let's visit Jiayuguan Pass, one of the most famous gateways along the Silk Road. Imagine stepping into its bustling marketplace. The air is warm, filled with the smell of spices, roasted lamb, and freshly brewed tea. You hear dozens of languages spoken all at once: Chinese, Persian, Arabic, Hindi, even Greek. A Persian merchant displays carpets glowing with gold threads. A Chinese artisan offers delicate porcelain bowls. An Indian trader pours out jars of cinnamon and saffron. A Roman traveler negotiates for silk, dreaming of selling it for 10 times the price back home. Somewhere in the middle, kids chase each other between stalls, dodging baskets of fruit. Soldiers lean against the wall's gates, half watching for trouble, half sipping warm rice wine. It's chaotic, it's beautiful, it's alive. A journey across cultures. The Silk Road wasn't just about trading goods, it traded cultures. Buddhism entered China through this route, traveling from India to monasteries hidden in mountain caves. Paper and printing techniques flowed west, while glassmaking and astronomy came east. Imagine walking through a village near the wall. You'd hear a Persian lute playing softly in one corner, while a Chinese poet recited verses in another. You'd see men wearing turbans, women draped in silk, and monks wrapped in simple orange robes. It was the ancient world's biggest cultural festival, and the wall stood quietly, watching it all unfold. Stories under the lanterns. Night falls, the desert cools. Markets close their stalls, but the wall doesn't sleep. In the evenings, caravans camped near the gates, setting up fires and telling stories under lantern light. A trader from Samarkand shares a tale about a hidden oasis guarded by spirits. A Chinese soldier explains how the beacon towers work, making his audience gasp in awe. A young musician from India plucks at his sitar, filling the air with soft melodies. Laughter mixes with the sound of distant wind. For a moment, nobody feels like a stranger. Everyone feels connected.
Tea, silk, and spices. Let's take a closer look at what flowed through the wall's gates. Silk. Soft, smooth, and so rare in the West that Romans called it woven moonlight. Spices. Cinnamon, saffron, cloves, and black pepper traveled thousands of kilometers to reach distant kitchens. Tea, Yes, the drink we take for granted today was once a prized treasure, traded like gold across deserts. And in return, China received silver, glass, horses, and strange artifacts from lands so far away that most people couldn't even imagine them. The wall became a checkpoint, not just for people, but for entire worlds of knowledge. Trouble on the trade routes. Of course, the Silk Road wasn't always safe. Bandits waited in deserts, storms swallowed caravans, and sometimes even wars shut the routes completely. That's where the wall came in. Soldiers protected gates and patrol stations. Beacon towers kept an eye on wandering raiders, and nearby fortresses stored food and water for stranded travelers. Without the wall, the Silk Road might have been impossible. A festival of faiths. Along the wall's gates, you'd also find temples and shrines built by travelers from many lands. Buddhist monasteries with painted caves, Taoist shrines tucked into mountain cliffs, Islamic prayer halls near desert towns, even small Christian churches built by early traders. It was like a spiritual crossroads where ideas blended and faiths quietly coexisted. Standing on the wall at night, you might hear chants, songs, and prayers rising together from different corners of the world. Dreams of distant places. For many locals living near the wall, watching the caravans pass was like watching ships sail into another universe. Children would sit on stones, listening to merchants describe distant lands. In Rome, there are giant stone arenas where lions fight men. In India, rivers are worshipped as living goddesses. In Persia, the gardens float above the desert. Most of them would never leave home, but through these stories, their imaginations traveled thousands of miles. The wall at sunset. Now, picture this. The day ends. The sun drops behind the mountains, painting the wall in gold and orange. Merchants pack up their stalls. Soldiers close the gates. Lanterns light up one by one, glowing softly along the wall's curves. From above, it looks like a ribbon of fire stretching endlessly into the night. This is the wall not as a weapon, but as a bridge, a meeting place of worlds where past and future touch hands, where we go next. But while trade bloomed, something else was happening quietly. Behind the music, beyond the laughter, architects and engineers were unlocking secrets hidden in stone. In our next chapter, we'll dive into the ancient engineering that made the wall so incredible. The science, the design, the little tricks that helped the wall survive for thousands of years. Take a deep breath, because next, we go inside the wall itself. In the last chapter, we walked through the busy markets of the Silk Road, lanterns glowing, traders bargaining, and camels carrying half the world's treasures. But tonight, we leave the noise behind and step closer to the wall itself. How did they even build something like this? No cranes, no trucks, no Wall Building 101 YouTube tutorials. And yet, the Great Wall still stands after more than 2,000 years. Let's slow down, breathe, and explore the secrets of ancient engineering. The scale of the impossible. First, imagine this. The wall stretches over 21,000 kilometers across deserts, forests, rivers, and mountains, built by hand,
stone by stone, brick by brick. Even today, with modern machines, this would be a challenge. Back then, it was insane. And yet, they did it. Not once, but over and over across several dynasties. How? That's where the real magic begins. Different dynasties, different designs. One of the coolest things about the Great Wall is that it wasn't built all at once. Each dynasty added its own style, using whatever materials and techniques they had. Early walls, rammed earth and wood. Han Dynasty, mud mixed with sticky rice. Yes, really. Ming Dynasty, bricks, stone blocks, and advanced fortifications. Walk the wall today and you'll notice the texture changes from region to region. Some parts feel like baked clay, others like polished stone. It's like walking through different chapters of history, one step at a time.
The magic of rammed earth. Let's rewind to the very first walls. Back then, there were no bricks, no carved stones, just good old-fashioned dirt. Builders would dig trenches, pile in layers of soil, and compact it again and again using wooden rammers. Sounds simple, right? But the technique was genius. Once packed tightly, the earth became as hard as concrete. Some of these early walls are still standing 2,000 years later. And get this, some dynasties mixed sticky rice into the mud. Yes, actual rice. Turns out, rice starch worked like natural glue, making the walls stronger and resistant to rain. So, technically, you could say the Great Wall was partially held together by lunch. Stone giants of the Ming Dynasty. Fast forward to the Ming Dynasty, and we get the wall most people recognize today. The Ming used bricks, uniform, strong, and perfect for steep mountains, stone blocks placed at the base for stability, tiles and lime mortar for extra durability. They also designed drainage systems so rainwater wouldn't weaken the foundations. That's why many Ming sections still look incredible even after centuries. It wasn't just strength they cared about, it was beauty too. Some sections have carved patterns, smooth tiles, and neatly aligned battlements. The wall wasn't just defense, it was architecture. Tools, sweat, and sheer willpower. Now, let's talk about the builders themselves. There were no excavators or cranes here. The tools were simple: shovels, chisels, hammers, and ropes. Everything else came from human strength. Thousands of workers, soldiers, farmers, craftsmen, and prisoners hauled heavy stones up mountains using wooden sledges and bamboo scaffolding. Picture this, a long line of men pulling ropes together, their feet sinking into the dirt, their faces glowing with sweat, the sound of synchronized chanting keeping everyone in rhythm. It was dangerous, exhausting work, but somehow, step by step, the wall climbed higher. Watchtowers, fortresses, and beacons. The Great Wall isn't just a wall. It's an entire defense system. Every few hundred meters, you'll find watchtowers, small strongholds where soldiers could keep watch, store weapons, and rest during long shifts. Then there were beacon towers, used to send smoke signals by day and fire signals by night. This allowed messages to travel hundreds of kilometers in just a few hours. Imagine standing on one of those towers at sunset, the wind in your hair, looking out across endless mountains. Every tower connected like a chain of light and hope. Fitting the wall to the land. Here's the genius part. The wall doesn't fight nature, it flows with it. Instead of forcing straight paths, engineers curved the wall along ridges, valleys, and rivers. This saved materials, used the land's natural defenses, and created those stunning views where the wall snakes across mountains like a sleeping dragon. In some areas, they built steep stairways that climb like vertical ladders. In deserts, they used compacted sand walls. Near rivers, they built stone foundations to resist floods. Each section was custom-made for the land beneath it. Hidden engineering secrets. Some tricks were so clever you'd barely notice them. Hollow bricks. Lighter to carry, but just as strong when stacked. Drainage holes. Hidden between stones to prevent water damage. Interlocking bricks. Designed to hold together during earthquakes and landslides. Inclined foundations. Walls lean slightly inward for better balance on mountains. It wasn't random construction. It was science disguised as stonework.
Legends among the builders. With a project this huge, stories were bound to be born. One famous tale speaks of Ju, a woman whose husband died building the wall. Heartbroken, she traveled thousands of miles to find him. When she reached the wall, she wept so deeply that an entire section collapsed. Is it true? Maybe not, but it shows how much sacrifice went into every brick. The human cost. Behind the wall's beauty lies a heavy truth. Building it took millions of hands and cost countless lives. Harsh winters, dangerous heights, and long separations from families made it one of history's hardest projects. But because of those sacrifices, the wall became eternal. Every stone carries a story. Every crack holds a memory. Walking the wall today. If you visit today, you'll see the mix of old and new. Ming bricks glowing under morning sunlight. Crumbling Han-era earth walls. Watchtowers still standing proud. Wild sections overtaken by trees and grass. Touch the stones, and you can almost feel the hands that placed them centuries ago. It's not just history, it's living history. Where we go next. But the wall isn't only stone and engineering, it's also mystery. In our next chapter, we dive into myths and legends, tales of dragon spirits, hidden treasures, ghostly soldiers, and eternal love stories whispered by the wind. Take a deep breath, because next, the Great Wall's secrets get a little magical.
The Great Wall is more than stone and history. It's a storyteller. Every brick, every tower has seen centuries of laughter, tears, battles, and dreams. But there's another side to the wall, the one you won't find in history books. It's the side filled with myths and legends, stories whispered under starlit skies, told by soldiers to pass long nights, and passed down for generations. Tonight, we walk along the wall not as historians, but as dreamers. The tale of Ju. Let's start with one of the most famous stories. Long ago, during the Qin dynasty, there lived a young woman named Ju. She fell deeply in love and married a kind man named Fan Qiliang. But soon after their wedding, he was taken away to work on the wall. Days turned to weeks, weeks into months. No letters, no news. One winter, Ju traveled thousands of miles to bring him warm clothes. When she arrived, she learned the heartbreaking truth. Her husband had died from exhaustion, and was buried beneath the wall itself. Standing there, she wept so deeply, her cries so full of sorrow, that an entire section of the wall collapsed. Is the story true? No one knows. But even today, visitors leave flowers at her shrine near the wall, a reminder that behind all this stone are human hearts. The Dragon's Path. There's another legend, one that explains the wall's winding shape. When the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, planned the wall, engineers struggled to find the perfect route. One night, a mysterious dragon appeared in his dream. The dragon slithered across mountains and valleys, and Qin followed its path the next morning. That very path became the wall's design. Even today, locals say the wall looks like a sleeping dragon resting across China's mountains. Honestly, it does. Check Google Earth sometime. You'll see it. Ghost soldiers of the wall. If you stand on a lonely stretch of the wall at night, some people say you can hear footsteps. According to legend, soldiers who died defending the wall still march along its ridges under moonlight. Visitors have claimed to hear whispers, the faint clang of armor, and even see shadows moving where no one is walking. Spooky? Maybe. Beautiful? Definitely, because in a way, these stories remind us how much sacrifice lives within these stones. The hidden treasure towers. Not all wall stories are sad or scary. Some are tempting. One popular legend says that during the Ming Dynasty, wealthy generals hid gold and jewels inside secret chambers beneath the watchtowers. Some treasure hunters still believe vast fortunes are buried deep within the wall. But here's the twist. Many also believe the treasure is protected by powerful guardian spirits. According to the stories, anyone who digs without permission gets lost in an endless maze of tunnels and never returns. Honestly, it sounds less like history and more like a video game side quest. The Lover's Gate. Near Shanhaiguan Pass, where the wall meets the sea, there's a small hidden gate locals call the Lover's Gate. Legend says two young people, separated by duty and distance, used this secret passage to meet under the stars. It became a place where soldiers would leave small carvings on stones, names, initials, or little symbols of love. Some of those marks are still there today, faded but not forgotten. Proof that even in times of war, the heart always finds a way. Lanterns of the Watchtowers. In some villages near the wall, people believed that on the Ghost Festival, a traditional day when spirits return, lanterns magically light up inside old abandoned watchtowers. They say it's the souls of fallen soldiers finding their way home, guiding each other along the wall one last time. Every year, locals place small paper lanterns on riverbanks below the wall, letting them float away softly like glowing prayers to the past. It's beautiful, peaceful, and a little heartbreaking. The Well of Eternal Echoes. In one quiet section of the wall, there's a deep stone well. Villagers say if you whisper your wish into the well at midnight, the wall will carry your voice to someone far away. Couples used to visit this spot, sending promises to each other across the mountains. No science behind it, but hey, sometimes a little magic is better than facts. The Wall That Disappears. One of the strangest legends comes from the Gobi Desert. Travelers have told stories of following the wall's ruins for miles, only for it to suddenly vanish into thin air. No gate, no broken stones, just empty sand. Some believe it's an illusion created by desert spirits hiding an ancient secret beneath the dunes. Others say it's the wall itself taking a rest and choosing who gets to find its hidden paths. Creepy? A little, but it makes the wall feel alive, like it has its own quiet personality.
Why these legends matter. You might wonder, why so many stories? Why mix fantasy with history? Because the wall isn't just a monument, it's a memory. For thousands of years, people have looked up at these stones and wondered about the lives lived here. Legends fill the gaps where history falls silent. They make the wall human, a little mysterious, a little magical, and endlessly alive. A walk at night. Now picture this. You're walking on the wall at night. The stars are bright. A soft breeze carries the smell of pine and stone. In the distance, a lantern glows faintly in a forgotten tower. Was it lit by a caretaker? Or by someone long gone? Somewhere below, you hear the faint sound of a flute, a melody too old to have a name. For a moment, you forget where, or even when, you are. That's the magic of the Great Wall. Where we go next. But our journey doesn't stop here. Because while myths make the wall magical, history keeps moving forward. In the next chapter, we'll see how the wall evolved through different dynasties, shaped by emperors, generals, and the tides of time. Take a deep breath and hold on to these stories, because they'll follow us as we step back into history. The Great Wall is more than just a wall. It's a time machine. Every step along its path takes you through centuries of history, past emperors and warriors, poets and traders, ordinary families and forgotten names. Tonight, we walk the wall through time, from its first heartbeat to the legacy it carries today. The first stones, before the wall was great. Our journey begins around 7th century BCE, long before China was one country. Back then, there were small kingdoms everywhere: Qi, Yan, Zhao, Chu, and they weren't exactly best friends. People kept stealing land, stealing crops, probably stealing chickens too. So kings came up with an idea. If we can't trust our neighbors, let's build walls to keep them out. These weren't the grand walls we see today. They were mud walls, simple, short, and built fast. But they were the first step towards something bigger. Qin Dynasty, one wall, one empire. Fast forward to 221 BCE, enter Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, and honestly, a man who liked things big. One empire, one law, one throne, and one giant wall. Instead of many little walls, he ordered thousands of workers to connect them into one unified defense system. It wasn't fancy, no bricks, no carved stone, just rammed earth and wooden frames. But it was massive for its time, stretching across mountains and deserts. Qin's wall marked the start of China's first true attempt to create a single shield around its borders. Han Dynasty, a wall for trade and culture. Then came the Han Dynasty, 206 BCE to 220 CE. While Qin built for defense, the Han saw another opportunity: connection. Under Emperor Wu, the wall was extended to protect new trade routes that would become the Silk Road.
Imagine caravans loaded with silk, spices, tea, and jade passing through gates watched by soldiers. The wall became more than a barrier. It became a bridge, a meeting point of cultures, languages, religions, and ideas. This was the wall's first transformation, from a shield into a gateway. Tang Dynasty, Walls of Peace. By the time of the Tang Dynasty, 618 to 907 CE, China was strong, wealthy, and thriving. The Tang emperors relied less on walls and more on diplomacy. They made alliances with northern tribes, signed treaties, and opened their gates to trade and travelers. In some regions, the wall wasn't reinforced at all because they didn't need to fight. Soldiers stationed at the wall enjoyed quieter lives, watching sunsets instead of battlefields. Markets bloomed at border gates, and music replaced the sound of war drums. For the first time, the wall could breathe. Then came the Song Dynasty, 960 to 1279 CE. It was a time of incredible invention: gunpowder, paper money, printing, but also challenges. The Song faced constant pressure from northern invaders like the Khitan and Jurchen tribes, so they relied on clever strategies. Building fortresses near the wall, using early gunpowder weapons, strengthening gates and patrols. Even with all this, the Song sometimes lost control of northern regions, but their innovations laid the foundation for how the wall would evolve next.
Mongol conquest, when the wall fell. And then came the storm. In the early 13th century, the Mongols, led by Genghis Khan, swept across Asia like wildfire. Fast, ruthless, and fearless, they bypassed many walled defenses and captured large parts of China. By 1271, the Yuan dynasty established the Yuan dynasty, and for a while, the wall's role changed completely. Instead of defending against outsiders, the wall now marked the borders inside an empire controlled by outsiders. Ming Dynasty, the wall reborn. When the Mongols were finally pushed back, the Ming Dynasty rose in 1368 CE, and they weren't taking chances. This is the wall we know today: stone, brick, and engineering brilliance. Thick stone bases for stability, bricks shaped perfectly for steep ridges, beacon towers every few hundred meters, massive fortresses guarding key passes. The Ming transformed the wall from a patchwork defense into a masterpiece of architecture. And it wasn't just military. Markets thrived near wall gates. Families settled in nearby villages, and watchtowers became tiny communities. But make no mistake, the wall was still a front line. The Mongols didn't disappear entirely, and battles raged along these ridges for generations. Qing Dynasty, the quieting of the wall. In 1644, the Qing Dynasty took control of China. Unlike the Ming, they didn't see the wall as essential. Why? Because the Qing expanded so far north that the wall wasn't the edge anymore. Slowly, repairs stopped, watchtowers emptied, markets faded, and grass began to swallow abandoned gates. The wall stood tall, but its role was quietly slipping into memory. The wall in modern times. Centuries passed. The wall faced storms, erosion, and yes, even treasure hunters chipping away at bricks. By the 19th century, Western explorers rediscovered the wall and brought its story to the world. In the 20th century, sections were restored to protect its legacy.
Today, some parts are pristine and tourist-ready, while others lie hidden, crumbled into the earth, sleeping under wild grass. But whether restored or ruined, every section tells a story, not just of emperors and wars, but of the millions of hands that built, guarded, and lived beside it. A river of time. Walking the wall today feels like walking through time itself. Every step carries echoes of voices long gone. Farmers mixing mud, soldiers lighting beacons, merchants haggling at gates, children chasing each other in dusty villages. Each dynasty left its fingerprint, some carved in stone, others faded into whispers. But together, they built something far greater than any one empire could imagine. Where we go next. In our next chapter, we leave behind emperors and dynasties and step into a softer moment. The decline of the wall, when nature slowly reclaimed its stones and silence replaced the sound of drums. Take a deep breath, because next, we watch the wall fall asleep. For thousands of years, the Great Wall stood strong, a proud guardian of empires, a witness to battles, and a bridge between worlds. But nothing in history lasts forever. Not kings, not dynasties, not even walls made of stone. Tonight, we watch the Great Wall enter a quieter chapter, a time when armies stopped marching, traders stopped passing, and nature slowly reclaimed what humans built. The Qing Dynasty and the Changing Times. Let's start with the Qing Dynasty, 1644 to 1912. When the Qing rulers took power, they expanded China's borders far beyond the wall's northern edge. And suddenly, the wall wasn't as important anymore. Before, it was the front line. Now, it was sitting miles away from the real action. Like an old soldier retired from duty, still proud, but not needed as much. The Qing emperors didn't ignore the wall completely, but they didn't invest in it either. Repairs slowed down. Patrols got smaller. Beacon fires rarely lit up anymore. The wall was still there, but its purpose was fading. Abandoned watchtowers. Imagine walking along the wall during this time. You pass an old watchtower. Its windows are cracked, its roof half collapsed. Inside, spiders spin webs where soldiers once slept. A rusty spear leans in the corner, untouched for years. The fireplace is cold. The echoes of boots on stone have long disappeared. And yet, if you close your eyes, you can almost hear them. The whispers of guards calling out, the laughter of men sharing rice wine after a long night on duty. Time moves forward, but the stones remember.
The villages near the wall. For locals living near the wall, life also began to change. Before, border villages were busy. Markets buzzing, soldiers marching, merchants shouting prices. Now, many families packed their belongings and moved closer to new trade routes. Some villages near the wall vanished completely, leaving only abandoned houses and empty wells.
In the quiet evenings, you'd hear nothing but the sound of the wind brushing past the stones. Nature takes over. With fewer repairs and fewer people, nature slowly crept in. Wild grass sprouted between cracks. Vines climbed up broken battlements. Birds built nests inside empty watchtowers. Some sections of the wall were swallowed completely by forests and deserts. In the Gobi Desert, sandstorms buried entire gates, hiding them under waves of golden dunes. In the mountains, trees wrapped their roots around old bricks, as if trying to hold the wall together. The wall didn't fall overnight. It drifted, quietly, softly, like an old giant falling asleep. The silent stories of soldiers. Imagine being one of the last soldiers stationed on the wall during this time. The campfires are smaller now. Fewer men sit around them. Sometimes days pass without any orders. You walk along empty walls, looking at towers that once carried the entire weight of an empire. Now, you're just making sure wild animals don't move in. Some soldiers wrote poems about their loneliness. Others carved their names into the stone, hoping someone, someday, would remember them. Walls that crumble. By the 18th and 19th centuries, large stretches of the wall had already fallen apart. Heavy rains washed away rammed earth. Frost cracked stones open in winter. Bricks loosened and tumbled down cliffs. In some places, locals even used wall bricks to build houses, wells, and roads. It wasn't disrespect, it was survival. For many, the wall was no longer a monument. It was just free construction material. Western rediscovery. By the 19th century, the wall caught the attention of Western explorers and scholars. Travelers arrived with sketchbooks, measuring tools, and wide, curious eyes. To them, it wasn't just a wall, it was a mystery, a sleeping giant lying across mountains and deserts. Their writings and illustrations brought the wall to the world's attention again, and suddenly, this quiet, forgotten monument became famous once more. The stories hidden in ruins. Even though the wall was declining, its ruins told powerful stories. A cracked stone here shows where soldiers once sharpened their blades. A faded carving there marks where a merchant counted his coins. An abandoned watchtower still smells faintly of burned wood from ancient beacon fires. Every ruin is a reminder that the wall isn't gone. It's alive in whispers and memories, even when silence surrounds it. Legends of the Sleeping Wall. As the wall became quieter, new legends started to appear. Villagers said that on certain nights you could hear ghostly footsteps on deserted sections. Others claimed that if you touched the stones at midnight, you'd hear faint echoes of ancient drums, beating from a time when the wall still roared with life. And some believed that the wall itself was a living dragon, just resting, waiting for the day it might wake up again. The first restorations. In the early 20th century, China began restoring key sections of the wall, especially near Beijing. Bricks were replaced, towers repaired, and pathways cleared. But not all sections could be saved. Some were too remote. Others had already disappeared under earth and sand. Today, less than 30% of the wall is fully intact. The rest
sleeping beneath nature's blanket, waiting for footsteps that may never come. The beauty in its decline. It might sound sad, but there's something peaceful about this part of the wall's story. For centuries, it carried the weight of empires. Now, it finally rests. No more battles, no more fire signals, just silence, wind, and the occasional tourist taking selfies with a selfie stick. It's a reminder that even the strongest things need rest eventually. Where we go next. But this isn't the wall's ending, far from it. Because in the next chapter, we watch the wall wake up again, not with battles or invasions, but with explorers, archaeologists, and people from around the world coming together to preserve its story. Take a deep breath, because next, the wall returns to life.
In the last chapter, we watched the Great Wall fall asleep. Its towers abandoned, its stones crumbling, its purpose slowly fading into silence. But history has a funny way of breathing life into old things. Because just when the wall thought it could finally retire in peace, the world came knocking again. Tonight, we step into the story of the wall's rediscovery, its restoration, and how it transformed from a forgotten ruin into a global treasure. The Forgotten Giant. By the late 19th century, huge parts of the Great Wall were buried under sand and grass. Villages nearby used its bricks to build homes and wells. Travelers passed by without giving it much thought. For many locals, the wall wasn't a wonder. It was just there, silent, sleeping. But far away in Europe, stories began to spread about an endless wall across mountains. Curiosity grew, and soon explorers were on their way. Western rediscovery. In the 1800s, foreign travelers and scholars started arriving with sketchbooks, measuring tools, and endless excitement. Some early explorers expected a single, perfectly preserved structure. What they found instead was a patchwork of ruins, hidden paths, and lonely towers standing in silence. They walked for miles, camped under the stars, and recorded every stone, turning the wall into a subject of fascination around the world. Suddenly, the sleeping giant was famous again.
China wakes up to its treasure. By the early 20th century, China began realizing just how important the wall was. Not just as a monument, but as a symbol of identity and pride. Restoration projects began slowly, starting with sections near Beijing. Local craftsmen studied ancient techniques, carefully shaping bricks to match the originals. But it wasn't easy. The walls stretched thousands of kilometers across deserts, forests, and mountains. Rebuilding all of it was impossible. So they focused on saving the most iconic sections first, the parts that carried the strongest stories. Battling, the wall's grand return. If you've seen pictures of the wall, chances are you've seen Battling. Located near Beijing, Battling became the first section fully restored in the 1950s. Smooth stone steps, rebuilt watchtowers, handrails for visitors, even rest stops for tea and snacks. When it opened to the public, people were amazed. For the first time in centuries, the wall came alive again, full of footsteps, voices, and laughter echoing off stone. Battling became the wall's new face, the part the world would come to know best. A global treasure. In 1987, UNESCO declared the Great Wall a World Heritage Site, From that moment, it wasn't just China's treasure anymore. It belonged to the whole world. Tourists began arriving from every corner of the planet. Some came for hikes, some came for photos, and some just wanted to stand on the stones and whisper, "Wow, people built this?" Today, millions visit each year, walking along restored sections, touching the smooth bricks and gazing at endless mountains. For many, it's a dream come true.
Preservation challenges. But here's the thing, saving the wall isn't easy. Some sections are well preserved, but many remote stretches are still crumbling quietly. Why? Because the wall is huge, like really huge. It runs across 15 provinces, crosses deserts, rivers, and cliffs, and faces constant threats. Erosion from wind and rain, overgrowth of trees and vines, tourism damage in popular spots, and yes, people still taking bricks home as souvenirs. Preserving the wall is like trying to protect a sleeping dragon that stretches halfway across the country. The technology of saving history. Thankfully, modern science has stepped in. Engineers now use 3D mapping to study the wall's structure. Archaeologists scan underground tunnels without digging, preserving hidden chambers and artifacts. Some teams even use drones to reach dangerous cliffside sections and check for damage. It's a mix of ancient craftsmanship and cutting-edge technology, the past and future working together to keep the wall alive. The wall meets the world. Beyond China, the wall has become a global symbol of endurance. Artists paint it, poets write about it, filmmakers use it as a backdrop for legends and adventures. It's more than a monument now. It's a story shared by humanity about ambition, courage, and the timeless desire to leave something behind. The people protecting the wall. One of the most beautiful things about the wall's preservation is the people behind it. Local villagers volunteer to guard nearby sections. Engineers risk climbing dangerous cliffs to secure loose stones. Scholars spend years deciphering ancient records to understand forgotten techniques. For them, the wall isn't just history, it's home. Their hands are carrying forward the same work that builders began thousands of years ago. A wall for the future. The wall has lived many lives. A fortress, a marketplace, a sleeping ruin, and now a global treasure. And yet, its story isn't over. Preservation isn't just about saving bricks. It's about keeping the stories alive of soldiers, traders, families, and dreamers who gave the wall its soul. When we walk on it today, we're walking on their memories. And when we protect it, we're writing the next chapter together. Where we go next. In our final chapter, we pause and reflect on everything. The Great Wall is more than a monument. It's a reminder of human dreams, of sacrifice, and of the quiet strength that carries through time. Take a deep breath, because next, we stand at the wall beneath the stars and listen to the echoes of eternity. We've walked far together, through battles and peace, through myths and markets, through centuries of dreams, sweat, and silence. And now, we stand at the Great Wall, under a quiet night sky, listening to the whispers of 2,000 years of history. This isn't just the story of a wall, it's the story of humanity. Our hopes, our fears, and our endless desire to leave something behind.
The wall beneath the stars. Close your eyes for a moment. The night is cool. The air smells of pine and old stone. Above you, millions of stars stretch across the sky like tiny lanterns lighting the heavens. The wall curves through the mountains below, its towers glowing softly in the moonlight. It looks alive, like a sleeping dragon, resting after centuries of watching over the land. Standing here, you feel small, tiny even. But strangely enough, you don't feel alone. Because in this silence, you can almost hear them. The footsteps of soldiers, the laughter of children, the voices of traders calling out prices, the whispers of lovers meeting in secret. All of them frozen in time, still walking beside you. A wall of dreams. The Great Wall isn't just made of stone, it's built from dreams. Dreams of emperors who wanted to protect their people. Dreams of traders who believed in connecting worlds. Dreams of workers who gave their lives, hoping future generations would be safe.
Even the myths and legends we explored before, dragons, ghosts, hidden treasures, are proof of how deeply this wall lives in people's hearts. It's not just a monument, it's a memory carved into the earth itself. A conversation with time. Standing here, you realize something beautiful. The wall has seen everything. It's seen dynasties rise and fall. It's seen battles fought and lost. It's heard poetry sung under lantern light and drums thunder during storms of war. It's seen kings, scholars, farmers, musicians, monks, merchants, and wanderers, just like us. It has stood through rain and snow, through fire and silence, through endless footsteps of people who came and left. And yet, here it stands, quiet, patient, unmoved by time.
The wall within us. Here's the thing most people forget. The Great Wall isn't just there. It's inside us too. It represents the walls we build in our own lives. Walls to protect what we love. Walls to keep our fears away. Walls of patience and strength when life gets hard. Sometimes we build walls to keep others out. Sometimes we build them to hold ourselves together. But the Great Wall teaches us something. Even the strongest walls don't last forever. And maybe they're not meant to. Because one day walls crumble, and what remains are the connections they created. A world without borders. When the wall was built, it divided people. But over time, it did the opposite. It became a bridge.
Closing reflection. So if you ever stand here one day, on the ridges of stone, with the wind brushing past your face, look out at the horizon and smile. Because somewhere, deep inside these mountains, the wall is still whispering, still waiting. Merchants from Persia walked its gates. Monks from India followed its paths. Roman glass and Arabian spices passed through its watchtowers. And today, millions of people from every corner of the world come here to walk together, to take pictures, to tell stories, and to stand in the same place where history breathed. The wall once separated us. Now, it connects us. The sound of silence. Imagine sitting alone on a quiet, wild section of the wall. No tourists, no noise, just you and the wind. You touch the rough stone beneath your hand. It's warm from the sun,
cool under the moon. You listen closely, and for a moment, the silence feels alive. Somewhere deep inside, you realize this wall doesn't just hold history, it is history. Every crack, every missing brick, every faint carving is a story waiting to be heard. And as long as we remember it, it will never, ever fade.
Closing reflection. So if you ever stand here one day on the ridges of stone with the wind brushing past your face, look out at the horizon and smile. Because somewhere, deep inside these mountains, the wall is still whispering, still waiting, still alive. And as long as we remember it, it will never, ever fade. A promise to the past. In a way, the wall has given us a responsibility to remember the people who built it, guarded it, loved beside it, and dreamed because of it. To preserve it, not just for ourselves, but for everyone who comes after us. Because one day, centuries from now, someone else will stand where we're standing now, and they'll feel exactly the same awe. They'll touch these same stones, look at the same endless mountains, and whisper the same thought. They built this with their hands for us, the eternal wall. The Great Wall isn't eternal because of stone and mortar. It's eternal because of the stories it holds. Stories of courage and sacrifice. Stories of love and longing. Stories of people who dared to dream bigger than their own lifetimes. One day, the stones may crumble, the towers may fade, the forests may cover its paths completely, but the wall itself, it will live on in our songs, our books, our myths, and our dreams. Because the Great Wall isn't just in China, it's in us. One last look. Take a deep breath. Feel the cool mountain air on your face. Watch the shadows of the towers stretch beneath the stars. Listen to the whispers hidden in the cracks between stones. This isn't just an ending, it's a circle, a reminder that time moves, but stories stay. The Great Wall was built to defend the past, but somehow it also protects the future. And tonight, as we leave it behind, remember this. You're part of its story now too.